meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life, because the Mets are really socking the ball, knocking those home runs over the wall. East side, west side, everybody's coming down to meet the METS Mets of New York town. Oh, the butcher and the baker and the people on the streets, where do they go? To meet the Mets! Oh, they're hollering and cheering and they're jumping in their seats. Where do they go? To meet the Mets! All the fans are true to the orange and blue, so hurry up and come on down, 'cause we got ourselves a ball club, the Mets of New York town. Give 'em a yell, give 'em a hand, and let 'em know you're rooting in the stand. Come on and meet the Mets, meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life, because the Mets are really socking the ball, knocking those home runs over the wall. East side, west side, everybody's coming down to meet the METS Mets of New York town, of New York town.
And we are live, Mets and baseball fans. Thank you all so much that are first chiming in for another episode here at New York Mets Talk. Myself, Wardy, alongside good friend and co-host here, and Richie from Mets Media. Hope everyone is doing well. Just chiming in, guys, as we are going to be breaking down a whirlwind of a series in Miami. And again, another series in Miami that does not go the Mets' way for obvious reasons. So we're going to unfortunately be breaking down that series, what that means for the Mets, if at all, going forward. We will then be breaking down exactly where do the Mets stand at this point in regards to still trying to make a playoff push. Is it officially dead now? Is it not? Injury updates, along with also looking at the upcoming massive series starting tonight, in which we will be live on the channel for the entirety of the series, that being the Subway Series matchup against the New York Yankees at home in Citi Field, 9/11 weekend. It's going to be an emotional ride, truly a roller coaster that we all have to get ourselves prepared for. So expect a lot to be broken down. A lot needs to be said here. So if you're watching this live or on replay, we appreciate you guys. Smash that like and subscribe button as you're chiming in. But yeah, let's just jump right into this, really. So Richie, how are you doing today, my man?
I'm doing good. It's going to be a great weekend for the Mets. It's going to be a very emotional series for the Mets and Yankees in particular. We were talking about it pre-stream, the emotions around the 9/11 game is going to be surreal, 20-year anniversary. And, coming off of the Marlins series, we'll talk about it. But other than that, I'm doing really good. Life's great. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Hope you guys are having a fantastic day. And, I'm getting ready to fly to Charlotte tomorrow for the Jets-Panthers game. And that's really what I'm looking forward to the most in terms on Sunday. But this Mets-Yankees Subway Series could be one for the books. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, man. And I will say this, it sucks that the Mets going into this series are coming off of, now being 4-4 on their road trip, 500 against below 500 clubs. That is not how you get things done whatsoever, especially when you look at the matchups the Braves had. Literally almost lost the series in the Nationals. They had a win in extras yesterday after losing the night before. So now the Mets are 5 games back of first right now. The Phillies just lost to the Rockies last night at the time of recording this. A lot of things could have went in the Mets' favor, and in typical Mets fashion, they did not lose in blowouts. They lost in the only way that they know how, one-run differential games. The Mets now, again, the perfect story of their season has been this one-run differential. They are now, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, 27-29 on the year now in one-run differential games. And they've now lost 12 of their last 13 games, in which those games are by one-run differential. So just horrendous. It really makes you wonder what the year would be like if things were at least a little bit different and how much stronger they would have things for them at first place or close to first place in the division. But again, it's one of those things where we can be wishful thinkers all we want, but the reality is the Mets just simply cannot clutch up this year. They grind out every single game, but it doesn't matter if you're the worst team in the league or if you're the best. They really have that same kind of approach. And until we see something different, that's what we're going to have to understand going forward. So without further ado, Richie, let's break into this. I hope you have a great weekend when you're going to Charlotte. Jets, Jets. I'm not a Jets diehard like you are. I'm a Steelers fan, but I'm going to be rooting for your Jets this weekend, no less, my man. So getting right into this one in Miami, it started off hot. It started off good for the Mets, something that we were all excited about, at least to get them on a strong foot coming off of the National Series when, again, they should have won more games than what they did. They had a game. They lost the final game, I believe, in that series as well. So going into Miami, this was a big one. The Mets won, however, and this was by far their best game. They won 9-4, and at that point, they were 70-69 on the season. We streamed that game on the channel too, I believe. You look offensively for the Mets in this one. Francisco Lindor was 1-for-4 in the game with 2 runs scored and 2 RBIs. And then you also look at Pete Alonso. Big Meat Pete was 2-for-4 in this game. Had a massive game for the Mets, including another home run. That was his 3rd home run in 2 games now, and his 3rd home run of September. So Pete has been looking great. 3 RBIs and 2 runs scored. Then you also Michael Conforto was 1-for-4 in this game with an RBI. Javi Baez did not get anything going, but he did have an RBI, even though he won 0-for-4. Jeff McNeil was 1-for-5 in this one with a run scored. And going down the list further, J.D. Davis had himself a pinch hit RBI in this one too. So the home runs again came from strictly Pete Alonso. And this one, a double from Conforto as well. But that's really all she wrote. The Mets got the job done. They jumped on Edward Cabrera, who really was just having major issues. As you know, the rookie right-hander only is, I think, 3rd start maybe this season. 2nd time against the Mets already. He only pitched 3 innings the first time against them 5 days prior. And this one, he only went 2.1 innings pitched because he had a plethora of walks. He walked in a couple runs. And this is when the Mets literally only had like 1 hit for a while. So it was kind of crazy. But no less, the winner of this game is going to be Carlos Carrasco, who, again, did not necessarily have, a stellar outing, but a really, really solid one, no less, as he ended up giving up, 4 runs, but that was also because of a lot of defensive mishaps for the Mets. He only got charged with 1 earned run here, over 5, gave up 7 hits, a walk, and 4 strikeouts. That has a 5.88 ERA on the year. So again, I'm not going to put much stock into that ERA, but no less, Carrasco, unfortunately, runs went against him, but there was only 1 earned because poor defense from the Mets front. Then you got Aaron Loup, who came in and pitching scoreless like he usually does. Loup, there it is, baby. Trevor May comes in, no problem, 1 inning pitch. And Brad Hand comes in, and Miguel Castro, and they shut the door. No problem for them. So the Mets, in total, in this game, were 1-for-9 in runners in scoring position and still managed to score 9 runs. Again, this was not a pretty game at all whatsoever, but at the end of the day, they got the job done when they needed to. And then if you look, they left 6 on base. And yeah, the errors came from guys like Francisco Lindor, Jonathan Villar, and Jeff McNeil. 3 errors on the night for the Amazons, and they only recorded a total of 6 hits in this one and had 9 runs. The Marlins, who had 10 hits, but only recorded 4 runs. So, Richie, what was your initial reaction to game 1 here? Feeling like the Mets, even though that it wasn't pregame at all, they got off to the right. They really got off to the right foot in my mind, but then we all saw what happened the following couple games.
Yeah, the first couple innings were really interesting. We were scoring runs without getting any hits. We kept getting walks. We kept getting hit by pitch. And then, this game was more all about Pete Alonso hitting his 100th and 101 home runs of his career, 2nd all-time or 2nd fastest of all time, right behind our, hatred rival of Ryan Howard. But I really felt like this game was a statement. It was the first one of the series, and I had a really good mindset going into the last 2 games, and I was completely wrong. But, going into just what happened in this game in particular, the errors were really frustrating to watch. It was like, sloppy baseball. It really, what this game told me, it was like, wow, okay, so our offense is finally doing something, but when the offense is doing well, the defense is not going to do well. It's like we can never get all 3 phases of the game, offense, pitching, and defense all working together. It always feels like there's one that's not doing well. And this game was the defense. 3 errors is inexcusable. But at the end of the day, we only had 6 hits, but scored 9 runs. So shout out to the Mets. Francisco Lindor had a very nice 2 RBI hit. Pete Alonso with 2 home runs. And like I said, this was a must-win game, and then the next two were must-wins as well, which we did not take care of, which we will get into. But it is awesome that Carrasco finally got his first W of his Mets career. It's been a long time, obviously. He's had a lot of rough starts. 5 innings pitched, giving up 4 runs, but only 1 of those were earned, and 4 strikeouts. His ERA is now a 5.88. I'll take that from Cookie, and then the bullpen did their job as well. But at the end of the day, man, it just seems like we did not carry this momentum in for the rest of the series.
Yeah, man. And look, at the end of the day, it was awesome to see the Mets get on the right foot here, but it all comes back to that narrative again about 1-run differential games. How will the Mets do? How will they be able to prevail? And again, it's just something that has truly been their kryptonite all year long. And I give them credit for grinding out games and keeping most games close, but I surely do not give them credit for everything else that has transpired with the reason why games have been close when they should be blowouts in their favor, especially when it's against teams like Miami. And don't get me wrong, as we get into game 2 of this series, this was by far the hardest pitching matchup the Mets have faced in a while. I think we can all agree. Sandy Alcantara was just an absolute gem. He really made me miss Jacob deGrom a hell of a lot more, given the fact that he was throwing literally 102 late in this game. He pitched a full 9 innings and only gave up 1 run against the Mets in that 2-1 loss here in game 2. And it was just a sight to see. Sandy's been awesome for the Marlins all year long. He's such a great up-and-coming pitcher still, and he let it all go. And again, he had his first complete game of his career back in 2019 against the Mets, and he shelled them there, and he did the same here. But still, even with the Mets not being able to get much on Alcantara, this was still a game that they surely should have won in my mind. So they lose 2-1 here in game 2. Offensively, the Mets only had 4 hits, and there's really no one to acknowledge in this game whatsoever other than Michael Conforto. Pete Alonso did get the first hit of the game, which I believe was a double with 2 outs in the first. But Michael Conforto was the only one that actually got out on Sandy Alcantara. Struck out twice against him in his first 2 at-bats. The third time around, Be Like Mike Baby hit himself an absolute bomb to tie this one up. But unfortunately, the Mets just could not do any more. And there was definitely some poor managerial decisions that were happening late in this game, too, when it came to pinch hitting. With Patrick Mazeika pinch hitting in a spot when you definitely had better options. This was a game that definitely could have been better than what it was. And to bring in Edwin Diaz in a situation where, yes, I know that you want Edwin to get back in rhythm, but his road splits don't lie. He has not been nearly the same pitcher on the road that he has been at home this year, let alone in non-save situations. More often than not, he has not been money. At times he has, but not consistently. And after really blowing 2 games for the Mets with saves in the National Series, you go into Miami and game 2 and you bring in Edwin Diaz when you had Trevor May available, when you had Miguel Castro available. And yes, I know they pitched the day before, but they can go. They only pitched 1 inning. And still, to bring in Edwin, he gives up the run that ends up giving the Marlins the win in extras. Just not a good look here. And you also have to look at the issue when the batter that came up, Brian De La Cruz, was basically the hottest hitter for the Marlins in this game outside of one other. He was batting 500. He was 2 for 4 in the game. It's been looking really good for the Marlins all year long since he's been acquired by them. And that was the situation. Why are you not intentionally walking him for the guy that would be coming up next? Very well could have been their first baseman that was 0 for 4 on the day. Maybe would they bring in Jesus Aguilar? Potentially. But still, that in my mind was truly baffling. This was a poor managerial game by Luis Rojas. I feel like we've said that multiple times lately down the stretch, which is obviously not a good thing, not an encouraging thing to say. Edwin is not the sole reason why the Mets lost this game. They did not get anything offensively, but again, he surely did not help things. And now you have to wonder how the Mets are going to go about handling the 9th inning or just, save situations for the remainder of the year. If they're going to really trust Edwin still, and they maybe going to go to a guy like Aaron Loop, who's been so reliable all year long, maybe throw Trevor May in there, who's been looking damn good. You have a lot of options there, so it's going to be curious, but no less. Pitching-wise for the Mets in this game, Rich Hill pitched another gem, 6 innings of only 1-run ball. This is now back-to-back games where Rich Hill has now only given up 1 run in a total of 12 innings. So shout out to Dick Mounty. He's done really, really well. If you also look at a fun statistic, Rich Hill now has only given up no more than 4 runs in 47 consecutive starts. There are only 3 or 4 better pitchers in all of MLB history that have been on that streak. So while Rich Hill hasn't necessarily been going deep into games, given his age and knowing that he's not going to get shut the opposing team down every single 5th day, he's been damn consistent for a while now. So that was a really cool statistic. I saw that earlier today. But then Jeurys Familia came in this game after Rich Hill, after having a solid quality outing. He did not give up any runs in 1 inning pitch. Aaron Loop, no problem again for Loop. He gave up 2 hits, but got out of it. Then Seth Lugo for the Mets was perfectly fine as well. He did have 2 walks, but he was able to get out of the jam eventually, which was nerve-wracking because Lugo has not been the same that we've seen in years prior this year since his injury. And then Edwin Diaz comes in, 0.2 innings pitch, and you get the walk-off from Miami. So Mets lost this one, 0 for 6 with runners in scoring position, 5 left on base, no offensive production, and they did not get the pitching, and just poor managerial decisions all around. Just everything about this game was ugly, ugly, ugly. So, Richie, what was your take on it?
Yeah, it was another game that we wasted a great performance from the pitching. And how many times have we seen that this year where we have a stellar outing from our starter, Rich Hill, 6 innings, 1 run. What else can you ask from him? The offense just absolutely got destroyed from Alcantara. He looked legit, pumping out 102 gas, 9 innings pitched, 14 strikeouts, a career high for him. ERA for him is now 3.24. We just couldn't catch up to his fastball. It was that simple. And it did give me flashbacks to Jake, and it made me miss Jake a lot more because this is what happens when you have a pitcher at the top of his craft in that exact moment in rhythm. And he was just absolutely scorching us to the point where I'm like, wow, we're not scoring a damn run this entire game. But Michael Conforto changed that, went yard on him, ties up the game, gives us life in the 7th inning. And then we forced extra innings, top of the 10th. You got to be able to score. Like right when I saw the Mets not score a run in the top of the 10th when the men on second to start off the inning, I had a feeling the game is over because it's so easy to score for some teams when there's a man on second base already for you in the extra innings. And for the Mets to not be able to capitalize, then Edwin Diaz, we all know what happened there. The Rojas decision was made, and it makes Mets fans want to rip their hair out because how many times have we said that Rojas needs to not make this decision? He did this wrong, did that wrong. And that it's at the end of the day, man, it's if the Mets extend Rojas, which I don't see happening, it's going to be a long season for us. There's going to be a lot of change. We found out that Sandy is not going to be the head of the baseball operations after this year. That should tell you that Rojas will be gone because there's going to be a lot of change in this team. And it's just another example of a Mets squad that does not take advantage of when their pitchers are playing well. And that's been the story all season, man. If we can finally get a consistent offense, like this pitching has never been the problem all year. It's really frustrating. We had 4 hits all game long. Like we're coming off a 9-run scoring. And then I understand we're going up against a very, heavy pitcher, but there's no excuse in the top of the 10th inning when we finally get to the Miami bullpen and we don't even put up a run. So, there's really nothing else to describe about this game other than the Mets completely not hitting, Conforto having a solo shot, Rich Hill being a dog, striking people out, like making him look like a fool, and he's like literally Tom Brady's age. So yeah, it's a very disappointing loss. I can't even tell you the amount of times I've seen the Mets lose 2-1 this season.
Yeah, man. It's such a damn broken record, and I absolutely hate that we have to talk about this. I feel like after every series, even in a scenario where the Mets win the series, we're still guarded because we're all aware of what is happening with the Mets this season. We're all aware of the struggles, where they're stemming from, but the fact that we have this self-awareness, the team has the self-awareness, and it's just still happening every effing week. Like there's no other way to put it. It's appalling. It leaves you a bad taste in your mouth. And more than anything, I'm just looking forward to when this ends. Not necessarily the season in particular, but just when this stretch ends. If it doesn't end until the season's conclusion, then okay. Then I'm looking forward to that because, again, major changes need to be had here. Most people, again, don't believe the Mets have a chance of playoffs. And until they're mathematically out, we will, of course, be advocating that anything is possible. There is, ideally, and we'll be breaking that down further in the stream. But by no means are we feeling optimistic right now. And rightfully so. But if there's one thing that is beautiful about baseball that we have learned is going back to, like a week, 2 weeks ago now, Mets were 8.5 out and they got themselves like within 3.5. Now they're 5 out and it's okay. How are they going to prepare going to the Subway Series game? How are they going to prepare against a Cardinals team that actually won a series against LA recently that are pushing for the wild card? They got a lot of tough matchups coming up. They don't have the easy schedules, but Maybe this is a good sign. I don't know, because it's not the length of the Dodgers and it's not the length of the Giants anymore when it comes to being the 2 best teams in the NL. You're getting teams now that are good teams above 500, but are teams that you can definitely go toe-to-toe against. So maybe that's what the Mets need now, if at all, because they simply can't handle teams that are, dog shit. Let's be frank here. They literally can't. They just can't. And they can't necessarily handle teams that are the best in the league. They'll go toe-to-toe with them every game, but they'll lose by that one damn run. So maybe the teams coming up are that middle. I'm just trying to be, the guy that is trying to give the benefit of the doubt here with any hope. But again, there's a reason why the viewership is heavily down right now with the Mets. There's a reason why viewership is so down on the channel. A lot of people have given up on the season. I don't blame them whatsoever, but I appreciate everyone that's been chiming in that are going through these dog days with us, because again, there's always light at the end of the tunnel. But let's get into game 3, which is the bigger negative, before we get into some optimism, some positivity, some excitement actually coming in the weekend. And this is one thing that I love the most about the Subway Series when we get into, is the fact that it doesn't really matter where the Mets lie or where the Yankees lie. Everyone's just having a good time for Subway Series, because it's such an impactful thing. And we all know how much of a roller coaster this will be, filled with emotions with the 9/11 game this Saturday and all of that. But getting into game 3 of the series, deja vu. Literally game 2, but game 3. 4 hits for the Mets again. They lose 3-2 after having an early 2-0 lead, all because of, get ready for this drumroll, please, everyone's favorite player, Javi Baez. Yes, Javi was fantastic, gets himself on base early in this one. I believe it was the first, right? It was very early in this game. Yes, it was. He then goes from second, steals third, a beautiful swim dive. Javi's literally the only guy that I see consistently do this and actually do it like it's nothing. And then he scores on a pass ball. Then he did that single-handedly. And then what does Javi do again when you get into the third inning for the Mets? He hits a solo shot. He pimps that. He's been crushing it for the Mets since coming off the IL. And that man, I feel more confident with each passing day, as I've been saying for a while, that he will get re-signed. There's no justification to really feel otherwise, whether you like him personally or not. Javi Baez is one of the best players on this Mets team right now, and there's absolutely zero denying that with what he does offensively, defensively, and on the bags. His IQ is truly electric, even with the strikeouts and all. But going in a little bit more on the offensive production for the Mets, it was strictly Javi Baez. He went for 2 for 3 with 2 runs scored, an RBI, and a walk. Outside that, James McCann was 1 for 3 in this game, and Pete Alonso 1 for 4. And that came with a triple right at the end of the game for the Mets, and they simply could not get the job done. So pitching-wise for the Mets here, you get into Marcus Stroman, pitched a damn gem. Another quality start from Stro. He now has a 2.87 ERA on the year, 6.1 innings pitch. And really, the Mets have treated Stroman like they treated DeGrom. They do not give this man run support to save their lives, or they have a bullpen blow up. 4 hits he surrendered. He gave up 1 earned run, but had 7 Ks. Stroh was looking great. He always does. Give that man the bag in the offseason. He absolutely deserves it with becoming a free agent. Brad Hand in this one did not look good. Brad Hand did give up 2 hits and 0.2 innings pitched here, and allowed a run to score. So that definitely wasn't good. It wasn't an earned run because there was an error, but no less, Brad Hand did not look great here because it was from his own throwing error that actually caused that run to happen. And then Jeurys Familia comes in the 8th. And Jeurys Familia, while he's been solid at times for the Mets this year, when he's not doing well, I feel like he's giving up a home run, because I've seen it personally this year. And no less, he does the same thing here to Jazz Chisholm, the rookie infielder who's been so electric at times for Miami, to give them the lead with an absolute moonshot to the third deck. That's all she wrote for the Mets. Then Pete Alonso gets a triple right in the top of the 9th, and the Mets can't do anything with it, and they lose this one 3-2. So Mets in total, 0 for 7 were runners in scoring position. They were horrendous. The Mets only scored 1 run in all these 3 games of this series with a runner in scoring position. That should tell you all you need to know about the series. And they left 7 on base, and that's it. That's literally it. So Richie, what was your thoughts on yesterday's game? Both Richie and I didn't even watch the game live. I was fortunately at a concert. I was getting the updates, and of course, right when I look at my phone, the game was tied after being up 2-0. Richie was away, not able to watch the game, so we were watching all the highlights and getting caught up late last night, earlier today. But yeah, I'm just grateful I didn't have to sit through that. I'm really grateful for that. After doing that, how many times this year? I can confidently say I probably watched at least 90% of those 1-run differential games for the Mets this year. Probably more.
Yeah, I watched the first couple of innings of the game, and then I went to my buddy's house to watch football. It was the first NFL game last night, and I was keeping up with the game on my phone. And it just sucks, guys. Like, my guy Marcus Stroman is getting the DeGrom effect. 6.1 innings pitched, 1 earned run, 7 strikeouts, and he doesn't get a victory. It's inexcusable. I don't even want to keep talking about it, because it's just like so tiring and exhausting at this point. I've been saying this since like DeGrom's been getting this treatment since April. But it's just really unfortunate, guys, that we're wasting, the prime of our pitching right now. Like, you can't ask
That's entire existence, I feel like, as a fan.
Yeah, you really can't ask for more from Stroman. You can't ask for more from any of our starting pitching right now. Even though Walker has been not good at all after the All-Star break, we didn't really give him any run support. It's just the same narrative, and this has to change. I don't know what the change will be, whether it is the manager, whether it is the entire coaching staff or the front office or new players in the building. I don't know what it is, but we need to start getting better at situational approach hitting, cashing in when runners in scoring position. It's the same stuff we've been clamoring for all season long, and there really isn't anything else to say other than extend Marcus Stroman, extend Javi Baez, because those are the two players that only showed up in this game.
100%, dude. And I love it that we're seeing Javi contribute, but I'm not loving everyone else not showing up. It's Javi and Alonso. That's it. Michael Conforto didn't. He had a good first game. JD Davis gets the start here in this one. He goes over 3. Francisco Lindor did not have a good series either. Just again, I see a lot of damn zeros, and that's something that inexcusable. And I feel like this isn't just this season; it's been multiple seasons now where the Mets, who have even had a good offense, just collapse when they're in Miami and collapse when they're in DC. It just in general the division. It just if you're not the Phillies and the Braves and the Mets, they've had their collapses with the Braves, but the Mets have actually had some damn good matchups against Atlanta too. But the two bottom feeders in the division are too much for the Mets to handle. It's inexcusable. It's their story of a season in a nutshell. And I'm just happy that this is over with, to be quite honest with you. I'm actually excited for the Subway Series, not just because of the fact that it's a Subway Series, but just because it's a team that the Mets haven't faced often. And when they have, they actually did well against them. They won the series against them earlier this year. So with that being said, folks, again, we appreciate everyone that's chiming in the chat. Before we get on to the Subway Series preview that I know a lot of you guys are looking forward to, regardless of where things stand for the Mets, because the Yankees are not playing good baseball either. So it's really the battle of the two schmucks in New York. Which one's going to prevail here and actually help propel them for a playoff run? Yankees are hanging on by a thread right now in the playoffs, with the Blue Jays literally barking up on them after getting swept in their past series. But before we go there are two things I want to talk about. Just a little bit further on the narrative continues for the Mets. And what do I mean by that? Again, it's everything that we've seen all season long for them. If you would have told me that going into this Mets season that they would be where they are right now, I'd say I have a bridge to sell you. Obviously, no one expected the year to go the way it has. But historically, the Mets are doing groundbreaking things with being absolutely horrendous and at the same time still grinding everything out. I've never seen a team like this before, even with their injuries. I know Nimmo's out right now. That hurts because Mets are a better team with Nimmo for sure. But even with them out right now and with other guys being hot for a while, it's truly, I don't even know how to put into words, a club that is getting poor managerial decisions at the worst times of the year when they should be getting at least competent ones, because Rojas hasn't been bad all year. He's been up and down, but he hasn't been doing well lately either. There's a problem when you're having your star closer that literally you don't know what to expect from him once again. He had consistency earlier in the year, and that's not there again against dog shit teams. Let's be real here. Then you also have other situations, the runners in scoring position. Like, we've been talking about this since the first week of the damn season. And I was saying, and I was such an optimist, and rightfully so, that, this is the beginning of the year. It's okay. The Mets are a second half team. Like, even if they have a bad first half year, they have a whole second half to really make up for it and get in a rhythm. And you could justify it when they had their injuries and they had all these things going wrong. But this has just been universal all season long. Doesn't matter who's in the lineup. Doesn't matter for how long. The Mets just, in a nutshell, haven't had any consistency offensively. And, the day we see consistent games by the Mets where they're at least, bang 300, 400, or even 500 plus runners in scoring position, I don't think we're seeing until next season at the very least. And that's being optimistic that one major changes happen, that they get better decision makers in there. I do expect a lot of change managerial wise and upper management wise, more than likely. I do expect some guys off this roster, but Richie, what's kind of your take here on just this narrative for the Mets? Have you ever experienced something like this? I feel like out of all the Mets seasons that I've watched as a fan, having the high expectations is one, you understand it, but there's nothing worse for us when we completely understand why they're in the spot they are right now, and the team does too, and they just can't get over that hump. There's just something there all year long that they just can't prevail from.
Yeah, man, the narrative is with the Mets, we've always been in the media for being dysfunctional for a while. And this season it was off to a very good start. Outside of the injuries, we were in first place for a long time with all these guys coming up from AAA. and all the bench mob pulling up, and the vibes were high, and there was no issues off the field. And I think all of this nonsense that started happening with the Mets off the field is not sitting well with this team. That's a big distraction, whether the players will admit it or not. That's not helping them out. And I feel like their minds are not just focused on baseball. And we going into the trade deadline, the Mets front office said that they do not want to break up this team because of the chemistry. And I agreed with that at the time, because that's what made this ball club seem special, is they had a different friendship. They had a different chemistry, energy, everything about it. The vibes were high. When they would win, they would celebrate in the clubhouse, and they would, battle adversity like no other team has all season long up until that point. But then we traded for Baez coming out of the All-Star break. DeGrom's gone for the season, it seems. And then Lindor has been looking very good up until this point. He swings, and all of a sudden his oblique is not there anymore, and he has to go on the IL for 30 days. And then that was really the turning point for the season. And then we find out, the fans are relentlessly booing them. It's just, going into the season, we all had expectations of we need to win the division. There's no excuse. The Mets are built right now. We just signed Lindor to a $300+ million deal. We have Jacob deGrom in his prime. We have all these players. We need to win the division. And Steve Cohen said himself, we don't win the division, don't make the playoffs. It is a really big disappointment. So when you go into a season with the expectations of making the playoffs and you completely just don't, and you implode, and, I don't think we can make excuses about the injuries, but at the end of the day, our best player has been out for half of the season. But then you can bounce that off with, well, the offense wouldn't perform if DeGrom was even playing, so it wouldn't even matter. But it's just a really big testament for this team of how they are going to form an identity after this year. There's going to be a whole new team next year. Like, outside of players, it's going to be so many. And I hope that needs to happen, because if Rojas does not leave, we need to bring in a new manager and a brand new coaching staff. We need to bring in a new front office. And we found out that that's going to happen. Sandy Alderson's going to step back. He's just going to be the president. He's going to hand off the baseball operations to another person, which is going to be a really good sign for the Mets going forward. But the narrative of the Mets, it seems like we're the same old. And as a Mets, Jets, Knicks fan going into the season, I'm like, yeah, the Mets are the better team of those three. That is the most win now squad. That's the team that's going to be making, the most noise in the playoffs. And now looking at it, they're not the best. It seems like
the Knicks, baby. Like, literally, that's the Knicks are the team to beat right now.
The Knicks somehow are, jumped over the Mets in terms of just my personal rankings of my squads. The Jets are still last because they're, coming off a 2-win season. But listen, all jokes aside, it's just unfortunate that this Mets team had such optimistic and positive vibes in the first half. And that just shows you the sport of baseball, that you really can't read into, a first half performance, because it's such a long season. It's 162 games. Like the Yankees, for example, were not good at all in the first half. The Mets were better. And then the Yankees go on a 13-game winning streak. The Yankees are back, and now they're losing 6 in a row. So the game is all about who can battle failure the best. And that's what it is. Sports and baseball in general is a game of failure. And whoever can really handle adversity and failure the best are the ones that come out on top. And it seems like the Mets are crumbling right now mentally. It feels like they don't really have confidence within themselves in the clubhouse. Not people individually. Like, I feel like some players do have that mindset, but as a collective unit, they're lacking that sense of urgency, their sense of fighting for their jobs. And that's the thing that they're lacking right now. And it's really unfortunate as a Mets fan going into the season with those high expectations and them not meeting them.
Dude, I couldn't have said it better. It's just, again, that's been their narrative in a nutshell. We'll see if it continues from the remainder of the season. At this rate, I don't see why you wouldn't believe that, with the Mets only having right around 20 games left. They're 5 games out of first. The wild card race, I'll double check here in a minute, but I'm assuming that it's slightly better for wild card, maybe just by a half game. But I'll double check on that right now, actually, just because I'm curious, because I didn't check this morning yet. So wild card for the Mets right now. And again, I said it all on. I don't see the Mets making playoffs unless they win the division. So yes, the Mets are still 5 games out of wild card, just like they are in the division. So in my mind, it's division or bust. And nothing's looking pretty right now. They got tough things coming up. But before we go any further, we're going to take a quick commercial break, guys, for the 1 or 2 times here in this episode that we're doing for all the month of September. As probably know by now, but definitely check out everything in the description down below if you haven't already after checking this out, if this is new to you. Before we go any further, I want to thank BetQL for sponsoring today's video. Want to gain an advantage over your sportsbook? You need to download BetQL, the only app you'll need to make smart bets. Their best bet computer model scans over 350,000 unique bets per year to give you the best bet recommendation for every game across all major sports and gives you the reasoning behind why you should place the bet. Their model covers everything from spreads, over-unders, and player prop bets. And if you don't want to use the model or prefer to do your own research, BetQL has all the necessary tools for your research needs. There is sharp data so you can see who the pros are backing, line movements so you can jump on the betting opportunities in real time, team summaries highlighting previous success against the spread and the over-under, and team lineup breaking news and injury status updates. Plus, you can save all your picks in one place to track your success and winning streaks, as well as view your rank on their leaderboards. So head to the App Store or Google Play Store right now to download BetQL. You can also head to try.betql.co/Wardy to get started now. Enter discount code Wardy at payment checkout for 25% off any of their subscription offerings. You can, of course, find all this information in the description down below. Make sure to check out their BetMGM offer in the description in order to receive a free year of BetQL. Also, check out their sportsbook offerings if you live in one of the eligible states to claim free offers upon signing up at one of the many sportsbook listings. Don't miss out on the chance to beat your sportsbook this football season. All right, folks, and we're back. And now we have to dive into what a crazy, crazy series this is going to be against the New York Yankees. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but again, everyone in the chat, thank you for being here. Continue to smash that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. Help us get a 50 likes by the end of the stream. That would really mean a lot because I know that we're in a shorter audience or if you're watching this on replay. So again, thank you so much for the support, guys. And of course, subscribe if you're new and you enjoy consistent Mets content. But this is a series I've had marked on my calendar all year long. Literally since it was announced. I wanted to go to the 9/11 game so bad. Unfortunately, I won't be able to, but I am excited because we will be streaming it on the channel instead. I think that's going to be awesome, not just for content creation, but just following the game. And it's going to be an emotional ride. I'm not going to lie when I say I probably am going to get a little emotional during it in the beginning, especially. But it's going to be a huge one for the Mets. And Richie, just before we dive into anything, what was your initial impressions? How long have you been waiting for this Subway Series? Do you covet it the way that I do? At least I don't view it as a World Series. I don't view it as, anything groundbreaking, but it's always exciting when you have the two teams in New York facing off against each other. And normally, even a lot, they go tight against each other too, regardless if the Mets are, say, absolutely horrendous or if the Yankees are underperforming. They always give it their all. And these are always, the battle for New York is always something special in my mind.
Yeah, no matter where the Mets are in any season, whether it's a losing season or a winning season, the Subway Series means a lot just for the city of New York. There's always a narrative of who runs the city, The Yankees definitely are the team that has been running the city for my entire life, it seems. But, us as the Mets, we know where we are in terms of the Battle of New York. We understand that we're the little brother of the city and we're trying to look up. And it feels good when we get to beat them like we did last month or whatever that was. And growing up as a diehard Mets fan as a kid, I grew up despising Yankees fans because they would always, point fingers at me. You're a Mets fan? Oh, they suck. Oh, boo-hoo. And then it made me just grow up to hate the Yankees. And I do hate the Yankees. And then still to this day, some of my friends are like, yo, why do you hate the Yankees so much? I'm like, you don't get it, bro. You don't understand. What's the point? It's New York. You should root for all New York teams. I'm like, you're not a sports fan if you don't understand. I'm never rooting for the Yankees in my life. The Yankees are my least favorite team in the world, and I root for them to fail. Sorry, but I do. And whenever the Mets get to first them, it's going to feel great, even though that, it seems like the Mets playoff chances are very slim, and the Yankees playoff chances are pretty slim as well, but they're still in it more than the Mets. I would feel good if we can knock out the Yankees out of the playoffs, if we could, even if it's not helping ourselves out since we dug ourselves into this hole. But, them playing on the, 9/11 is going to be really emotional. 20th anniversary. I have a big memory with that. My dad works in the city every single day, still to this moment, and he was in Manhattan during that, tragedy, and I was 2 years old. So, and I remember what happened that day vividly. So it's going to be an emotional day. 20 years since that moment. There's going to be a lot of tears, and it's just going to be this is going to be a time where Yankees and Mets fans come together as one. I feel like for tomorrow's game in particular, outside of baseball.
Yeah, you said it best, man. And I can only imagine how you felt during that time. I know you were younger. I can't tell you my memories because I was literally, just over 1 year old when everything transpired. But I obviously know everything about it, especially as I got older and got a better understanding. I know about the moment with the Mets' big game against the Braves, and everything there is to know with Mike Piazza and just how ingrained the Mets have been during this time. It's an emotional day every single year when the Mets, and again, they'll be wearing the FDNY, and I think, all the different types of, New York hats. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be huge as well. To break down a little bit further, going to the 9/11 game, you're going to have Bobby Valentine, Bobby V, the legend. He's going to be throwing off first pitch to Joe Torre. Will be catching, representing the Yankees. So it's going to be really cool. Mike Piazza and a bunch of other alumni are going to be there. And how fitting, at least, even though it's not the 9/11 game, but tonight, the Mets, I do believe, unless I'm wrong, they should be wearing their black jerseys because it's Friday night. So it should be a blackout for them, unless I'm proven otherwise. But I'm almost certain it is, because it is Friday night in Citi Field. So that's going to be absolutely crazy. The matchup against the Yankees is something that we've been waiting for so long in my mind. And when we get into this series against the Yanks, look, they're 78-62 on the year. That's not a bad record at all. That would easily be one of the better ones in all of the NL for sure. But when you're in a absolutely monstrous division like the AL East that they have been, and when you've lost 6 straight games the way that the Yankees have now, they are hanging on by a thread right now when it comes to wild card. They are not deep in it right at all. They currently have the second wild card spot, and they're only up by a half game over Toronto. So if the Mets have a strong series here, the Blue Jays have a lot. The Blue Jays have 14 more games this season against below 500 teams. They have 9 games against above 500 teams. And Blue Jays have been the hottest team in baseball in September. Absolutely rolling. I'm rooting for the Blue Jays. I hope they continue to roll. They just swept and smacked the Yankees around left and right. They've been electric. So Blue Jays may very well kick the Yankees' playoff hopes goodbye if they continue this role for them. But no less, even with the Yanks being third in the AL East, they're still a strong team. They are still going to give it their absolute all here against the Mets. And if you look at the upsides for the Mets here, at least pitching-wise, the Mets don't have to face Garrett Cole or Tyone because they're actually both out right now with injury. Tyone just got put on the 10-day IL. He's been struggling as of late. Jameson was also an awesome story because I believe he had cancer. I'm trying to think if it was I think it was testicular or prostate, but thankfully he's okay now. That happened a couple years ago. And Garrett Cole, as we know, who's still been dominant even without the sticky stuff this year. He got hurt and he won't be back until as soon as Monday in that matchup against the Minnesota Twins, potentially for the Yankees. So the Mets don't have to face either of them. That are two of the bigger strongholds, especially Garrett Cole, obviously being their lone ace. But the Mets here, they do still have some decently tough matchups. And again, who knows how this offense is going to show up. But there's one thing that we have learned about the Mets. They're a damn good home team this year. They're 41-27. They feed off the energy, and it's going to be an absolutely jam-packed house every single night. This is going to be the most attended series of the Mets for the entire season. Obviously, it's going to blow out that series against the Dodgers, too. I feel confident in that. Game 1 tonight is going to be Mr. Jordan Montgomery, the southpaw, who the Mets actually recorded victory off of back during the last time the Mets faced them in the 4th of July series. Montgomery's 5-5 on the year for the southpaw with a 3.47 ERA. He's one of the lone lefties that the Mets actually got success off of earlier this year against rookie Tyler McGill. And McGill is 2-7 on the year with a 4.2 ERA. But don't put those wins in the stock. McGill's been doing so much more than what we could have ever asked for from the rookie. Getting into game 2, the 9/11 game, that's going to be absolutely insane. Emotions going high. A little story that I'll share here about it is that I'll share it later too in my stream, and I will also be live on Unhinged Yankees channel, guys. So definitely check it out. I have it on the community tab. I'll repost it as well again at 5:30 to preview the series further on his channel. So definitely check him out. He'll be on my channel on Sunday as we co-host a stream together for the Mets game. But game 2, 9/11, and what I want to mention was my grandfather, and same thing with my dad. My dad used to work in the city consistently for multiple years. Then when we moved out of PA, because that's where I lived the majority of my life, he was working out there a little bit, but then he ended up stopping just because the commute was a lot. And then my grandfather, he worked, decades in New York City, and he worked for a very long time in the building right next to the Twin Towers. And crazy enough, on the day of 9/11, he was, given off that day for work. So just absolutely crazy knowing that he would have been right in that. And who knows what could have happened, obviously, because of obviously the air and everything that transpired was horrendous. Again, my thoughts or prayers with everyone that has been impacted by that day. It still hurts everyone to this point. But yeah, that's just my story. I'm grateful that my grandfather didn't have to be in that situation. My father was also helping out during the time because he was a volunteer firefighter back in Long Island where we lived. So he was a part of it as well. So it's absolutely nuts. Still thinking about that day. I know that I wasn't able to witness it live, but I still feel like I I was ingrained, and it just, it's something that I'm always going to be emotional about when this time comes. And again, I don't think there's anything better than to have the two New York teams facing off for this moment too. It's going to be something electric. But you have Corey Kluber, who's a veteran right-hander on the mound. First year with the Yankees, he gets a start. He's been doing decent as of late, but he hasn't been pitching deep into games. He's only been pitching between 3 and 4 innings over his past handful of games for the Yankees. He did throw a no-hitter earlier this year in Texas. That was crazy. That's when it felt like there were guys throwing no-hitters every single day. It's just absolutely nuts. But then he's 4-3 on the year with a 3.69 ERA. Good friends of Francisco Lindor, Cookie Carrasco. Cookie was a stronghold with Kluber when they were two of the studs in that rotation for Cleveland for a long period of time. Facing off against Taijuan Walker. Taijuan will get the start on this 9-11 game, 7-9 on the year with a 4.15 ERA. And then if you get in Game 3 of the series finale, which will be a Sunday night game, which again, like Game 1, like Game 2, and like Game 3, I will be live on the channel with my good friend Patrick at Untitled Yankees, so definitely be there for that, guys. It's to be determined. We don't know who's going to pitch for the Yankees yet. Until that gets determined, we don't really know right now. But Carlos Carrasco will be on the mound. It would have been cool if Cookie matched up with Kluber, to be honest, just to see those two friends, now foes, matching up. But no less, Cookie's 1-2 on the year with a 5.88 ERA, and we'll see how he can do against this, locked and loaded offense for the Yankees. And while they definitely had their struggles this year, they have plenty of pop. There's no doubting that whatsoever. So let's get into 3 guys that stand out to me in the series personally. You have to start off with Aaron Judge. Judge healthy is looking like borderline MVP. Maybe not to that extent this year, obviously, with guys like the entire Toronto Blue Jays roster led by Vladdy Guerrero Jr. and Shohei Ohtani is the best player in the world. But Judge has had a really respectable season, batting just under 300 on the year, 294 average for the outfielder, 30 bombs on the season, 75 RBIs, 6 stolen bags, and 910 OPS. But he has been cold over his past 7 games, batting right around 200. Not great on base, but I expect him to pop off this series for sure. Then you have Anthony Rizzo, who was acquired by the Yankees at the deadline. Rizzo versus Baez for the first time since they've been traded. So it's going to be interesting to see that matchup as well. Rizzo, who, there's been some controversy with him, especially since he came off of the COVID list. People haven't loved his performance from everything that I've seen. And I also know that there's a lot of controversy because Rizzo's beginning to play at first more often than not over a guy like Luke Voit. And while Voit's dealt with injuries this year, Voit is definitely important in that Yankees lineup, and he has not been utilized nearly enough, in my opinion. But no less, Rizzo is batting .252 on the year, 19 bombs, 56 RBIs, and 6 stolen bags, playing his time with Chicago and the Yankees this season. He has a just shy of 800 OPS, a 792, and he's been hot over his past 7 games, batting over 300 and gain on base. And then my third hitter, I'm not going to go with Giancarlo Stan. I'm not going to go with some others just because without the DH, I don't know how much at-bat Stan's even going to have, if he's going to be playing in the outfield a lot or not. But I went with a safer pick, even though he has not had a great year since starting on his new contract, and that is DJ LeMahieu for the Yankees. He's batting .267 on the year, 9 bombs, 54 RBIs, and 4 stolen bags, a 711 OPS. Not great. Again, a down year for DJ in plenty of ways, even with the home runs for sure and with the slugging, but he's been solid over his past 7 games, batting over 280, again on base a decent amount. So not high slugging at all, but those are my 3 picks for the Mets. And expand a little bit further. Richie, listen to this. I think what was funny is as I'm looking up these numbers through Fangraphs, again, if you guys don't know, Fangraphs, Baseball Savant, if you want advanced numbers, those are the places to go for all these statistics. They give you everything and then some you need to know. But just on the forefront offensively, through Fangraphs, the Yankees are currently ranked as the 16th ranked offense in all baseball. Guess where the Mets are, Richie, if you had to assume, with overall offense. We're not talking RBIs. We're not talking batting average, just overall offense. Where do you think they're ranked?
25th.
They're 17th. They're right behind the Yankees. As bizarre as that is, doesn't make any damn sense. But they have the actual mathematics to go behind it. Everything broken down. And what's even more bizarre is the fact that even with the Mets and all these injuries and being one of the worst in RBIs this year, they only have right around 50 less RBIs than what the Yankees do all year. So the Yankees obviously had a horrendous first half, struggling offensively. They went on a massive streak after the trade deadline, but they cooled off quite a bit lately, especially during this losing streak for them. And then if you look at pitching-wise, the Yankees actually have the lead. The Yankees, between their bullpen and actually gain above expected rotation help this year, are 4th in all of baseball with overall pitching, which is something you normally don't hear when you think about the Yankees, but they've been getting the job done all year round. But again, they do have injuries right now. And then you have the Mets, who are ranked 8th. So between their rotation and their bullpen, the Mets are currently sitting at 8th. And Home and away records. Mets have an awesome home record, as I mentioned, 41-27 on the season. The Yankees also have a really strong away record, basically the same as their home record even, 38-31. So it's pretty even matchup on that front between away and home. And there's a lot of things that you can say are pretty even between both clubs. They're actually really neck and neck. The only difference is that the Mets have by far the most games with one-run differentials and also have the most losses, I believe now at 29, just horrendous. So, Richie, what's kind of your overall take now when you're looking at these numbers here, when you're looking at this matchup and all the emotions? And that's something that, the numbers simply can't equate for. Like I said, doesn't matter where the Mets stand, doesn't matter where the Yankees stand. They always play tight-knit games for the most part between these two. And it's going to be really curious to see how both teams handle the environment in Citi Field and the emotions that are going to be going all throughout the entire stadium for not just the series, but especially game 2 on Saturday, that being 9/11.
Yeah, I mean, we know that how much is at stake in terms of this series. We got Blue Jays fans, turning into Mets fans this weekend, and there's a lot at stake in terms of the city of New York. We know it's going to be an emotional game. It's going to be tight. It's going to have a playoff atmosphere for all 3 of those games, even though the Mets are not really in it anymore. But they're not mathematically eliminated yet, so you got to believe until proven otherwise. But, whenever the Mets get to play against the Yankees, it's always a special time for me. It's always a special time for the city of New York. We all get to come together. We got Yankees fans come to Citi Field, rooting for their guys. And, I'm expecting it to be a hard-nosed, pesky matchup all 3 games in a row. I want to see the Mets offense really, wake up. I'm sick of the inconsistencies. We either have a game where we're scoring 8 runs or 1 run. There's no in between. There's never that 5 or 6 runs. It's always we explode or we don't. I would like to see Pete Alonso have a really good series. I feel like he does really good in these emotional environments. He represents the FDNY hats a lot. He's very vocal about that whole situation. And, the 9/11 game tomorrow is definitely going to be an emotional ride for the city of New York. Another quick story about my situation, what happened, or my father's rather, is he actually witnessed the second plane hit with his own eyes.
Oh my goodness.
From his office.
That's horrible. How far away was he?
He was far. He was not near it, but you can see the Twin Towers from his office. And they were all just like looking at the building after the first plane hit, like, wow.
Literally gives me chills, bro.
What's happening? And then they witnessed the second one with their own eyes. And then my mom couldn't get in contact with my dad for the entire day because everything shut down.
That's scary.
That's really just one small story out of, a billion. And it's nothing close to what happens to some families. I'm very thankful that my dad was not anything, near that, but it's definitely going to be an emotional day. Especially that it's the 20th anniversary. Every single year we always remember 9/11 because it's 100%. Such a tragedy. But now that it's the 20th anniversary, and we know that baseball made this a special game for the city of New York to have the Mets and Yankees versus each other. It's going to be a special game, man. I'm excited.
I'm excited too, and like I said, this emotions. This is something that I feel like how many times have I said this about a series where I'm like, this could change the season for the Mets? Again, we find ourselves in that same scenario. This is a series that very well could change the tide for the Mets if they go out and have an impressive performance with all eyes on them. The most that the eyes will be on them all season long, no less. That's huge, and I'm glad you brought up Pete Alonso here for a second because Pete, in my mind, is what is Mike Piazza back then, like for what his impact he can have on this club offensively and to really share his own moment. So like when I'm thinking of Pete potentially having that monster moment, he's that guy that stands out to me to be our Mike Piazza, if you will. And I'm not comparing the two. I'm saying in the sense of, Mike, his impact, everything that happened with the 9/11, the first game after 9/11 and just the impacts going forward. Pete has that aspect to him when he's been so consistent as well. If I'm going to bet on any guy that could have a clutch home run for the Mets, let alone even in game 2 potentially, I'm looking at a guy like Alonso. I really am. And there's one guy that stands out huge to me. Well, there's 2. Javi Baez, not just because he's been hot, but 1, he's been doing really well against lefties this season. Again, Jesus Luzardo, yesterday, the only guy that jumped on him was literally Baez the entire game. Luzardo has not been good this year, the young lefty, but still, the Mets were able to jump on him only with Javi Baez single-handedly doing it. So Javi's going to face another lefty who does not throw heat at all, and Montgomery is more reliant on his off-speed tomorrow. And then game 2, he's going to have Kluber, who, again, might be an issue. Kluber has a lot of break on his pitches, but Francisco Lindor is the guy that I want to step up more than anyone else in the series. Lindor hasn't looked bad at all. Did not have a good couple games in Miami, like the most of the Mets offense, but he's a guy I want to step up. He's supposed to be the face of this franchise. We've seen plenty of flashes this year, and I'm so confident in him. But he's been great against the Yankees throughout his career. He's had his best moment against the Yankees in his career in playoffs. So let's see Lindor enhance the environment, get ready, and have a monster series against this Yankees club. That's what I want to see more than anything, to be quite honest with you. I want Lindor to showcase what kind of impact he will have on the Mets, not just now, but going forward, and do it when everyone's watching. Help continue to prove those haters wrong. And that's who I want. I really just want Lindor to ball out. He has a good matchup against the lefty the first game. In the second game, he knows Corey Kluber better than anyone else in this offense. He played with him for a damn long time. He just needs to sit on that curveball in my mind. Again, he might even expect it, and he still might swing right through it because Kluber's known for his off-speed and breaking stuff. But still, that matchup, I'm really, really excited for it. Probably more than anything, to be honest with you. But yeah, so in a nutshell, Subway Series, it's going to be absolutely electric. I'm ready for it. I'm ready to turn the page. Forget about the damn Marlins. Let me even double check quick if the Mets play them again this year. They might play them one more time, but I just want nothing to do with that damn team until next season, man. It's always down the stretch. It's Miami. It's DC. It's, I didn't even get my hopes up. I was happy that we were done with the Dodgers and the Giants series for sure. But by no means did I say, we're going to, win every series. We should win every series, but I never was adamant about saying that we will. I was hopeful, but again, my hopes were crushed like this entire season in a nutshell. So getting into now, oh shit. Okay. So the Mets do have 4 more games. Yes, that's right. I'm an idiot. I'm going the final home game of the season with the 7 line, and that's against Miami. So the Mets have a 4-game stretch, including a doubleheader starting the 28th at the end of for last week of September. And that'll be all she wrote against Miami. And the Mets have no more series against DC. So yes, they have the Yankees coming up. Then it's a 3-game set, might I add, because we're in the NL. And then we have the Cardinals for a 3-game stretch, and we have a day off. Then we have the Phillies. But again, Mets are home for all these games. So if there's any upside take from it, it's that the Mets are home during this going to be 3, 6, 9 straight games against good teams. Then we're in Boston. I'll be in attendance for that game with the 7 line, the Tuesday game. Then they're in Milwaukee, 3 games. That's going to be unbelievably difficult. 4-game stretch at home against Miami. And then to end the season, it will be in Atlanta against the Braves. So any final comments you want to share here on the Subway Series? Again, guys, if you don't know, if you're just chiming in or watching this replay, we will be live for every single game on the channel for the Subway Series, including the 9/11 game this Saturday for the 20th anniversary and everything that's going to be happening there. I will be live on Unhinged Yankees channel later today, this Friday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern time, to break down further on this series preview, especially Yankees fans sharing their perspectives and really, from a Mets fan perspective, how I'm going to resonate with them will be fun. And then he'll be back on my channel Sunday for our last in-game live stream of the Subway Series co-hosting. So that's what's happening here on WardyNYM. But Richie, what's your final stances here on this matchup?
Yeah, I'm excited. Even though the Mets in my head, I hate to sound like a pessimist because I'm probably one of the most optimistic fans ever, if you can ask anybody that's been around me my entire life.
I tend to get that a lot too.
Yeah, it just seems like this season is, after that Marlins series, you can't lose to the Marlins and expect to be a playoff team. It's that simple. If you can't beat the Marlins in a series, you don't deserve to be in the postseason. It's that simple. But even if the Mets are even if hypothetically the Mets were mathematically eliminated, they should take this series seriously because we're going up against the Yankees. I'm expecting it to be a really fun one. I'm expecting the whole world to be watching. And hopefully Lindor steps up. I still have a lot of confidence in him. I really feel like that's going to happen. I really feel like Lindor has a good opportunity to, finish off the season strong, as well as Pete Alonso. Like I mentioned earlier, I feel like he's going to take advantage. If he has a big moment like that, like in tomorrow's game in particular, has like a walk-off home run or a late game home run for the lead, that's going to be, one for the book. So looking forward to it. It's going to be a crazy weekend for sports. And yeah, you guys know where to find me. I'll be, if you are a Jets fan by any means, check me out. I'll be live. I'm going to be in Charlotte for the game against the Panthers. So you guys know where to check me out. But yeah, man, it's going to be a fun matchup for the Mets and Yankees all weekend long.
100%, bro. 100%. So before we get wrapped up, we're going to take our last commercial break here of the stream, and then we'll go on and I'd say just take some questions. We won't do live callers today, but we'll take questions for 5-10 minutes. See what you guys have to say, everyone that's currently in the chat. So if you have questions, especially because it's a smaller stream today with attendance, ask away. So if you're the type that has been in a lot of streams and hasn't been able to ask as many because it's been flooded and previous ones, now is your time to execute with the low attendance. So by all means, please go ahead. But we're going to take a quick commercial break, guys, and then we'll be here for our final Q&A segment before the stream reaches its conclusion. So again, appreciate everyone being here. Smash that like and subscribe on. Before we go any further, I want to thank BetQL for sponsoring today's video. Want to get an advantage over your sportsbook? You need to download BetQL, the only app you'll need to make smart bets. Their best bet computer model scans over 350,000 unique bets per year to give you the best bet recommendation for every game across all major sports and gives you the reasoning behind why you should place the bet. Their model covers everything from spreads, over-unders, and player prop bets. And if you don't want to use the model, prefer to do your own research, BetQL has all the necessary tools for your research needs. There is sharp data so you can see who the pros are backing, line movements so you can jump on the betting opportunities in real time, team summaries highlighting previous success against the spread and the over-under, and team lineup breaking news and injury status updates. Plus, you can save all your picks in one place to track your success and winning streaks, as well as view your rank on their leaderboards. So head to the App Store or Google Play Store right now to download BetQL. You can also head to try.betql.co/Wardy to get started now. Enter discount code Wardy at payment checkout for 25% off any of their subscription offerings. You can, of course, find all this information in the description down below. Make sure to check out their BetMGM offer in the description in order to receive a free year of BetQL. Also, check out their sportsbook offerings if you live in one of the eligible states to claim free offers upon signing up at one of the many sportsbook listings. Don't miss out on the chance to beat your sportsbook this football season. All right, folks, now back for our Q&A segment here, and I see a lot of guys that are sharing their personal comments on their 9/11 experience as well. So I'm actually going to go to that. I want to read some of them quick because, again, it's important. It's an emotional weekend. This is something that I know that we have viewers, subscribers on the channel that have been directly impacted by, obviously for a negative. So I want to see what people's thoughts are on that matter as well. But no less, we will be answering questions still. There's a couple comments I want to address quick. Brooklyn Mets says, I lived close enough to that the chandelier moved when the towers fell. I lived in Lower Manhattan at the time, was outside when I saw a plane fly past the Empire State Building. A few seconds later, boom. See that, again, that just stuff like that's just crazy, and people were up front, like your dad. People were, actually working during the time. People have had, loved ones that their lives were lost during the, obviously it's a terrible thing, but at the same time, there's a certain sense of closure I feel that's brought with these moments, with these matchups, because at the end of the day, going back to the first game between the Mets and the Braves after what happened, that they need something to rally the city back. They need something to be positive about, and that's the beauty about sports. That's the beauty about whatever your hobby or something you have interest in is, because you can take yourself away, not necessarily from reality for a second, but just really hone in and know that there will be a light at the end of the tunnel at the end of the day and bring enjoyment. And so in a day that's going to be filled with so much grief, memories wise, there should hopefully be a lot of positives that can be taken out of it as well, which overall is going to be an emotional one. Let's see a couple more. There was one other comment, I think. Hold on one second, guys. I'm just trying to find it. What's up, Dave? Great member and friend of the channel. Hope you're doing well, buddy. One more. I'm just trying to find here. What's up, Darren? Great member on the channel as well. Super hype. Me too, buddy. I can't seem to find the comment, but if I find it again, I will. Let's see. Comment here says, how long does it take for a professional team to come to a determination that their closer and Senate man are ineffective? I mean, the same way could be said on how the Mets approach with runners in scoring position has been all year. I think they're aware of it, and Diaz is, again, that's a slippery slope in my mind, because Edwin has done really well at a large portion of this year, but he's just been inconsistent, and he's been inconsistent at the wrong times for the Mets as well. I think there would be a little bit of a different narrative with Edwin if he wasn't, say, having these blown saves right now when every single win matters to the Mets, versus if, say, the Mets were in a playoff spot right now and didn't change too much. I think those emotions go in hand with each other. But, as someone who has been in favor of Edwin Diaz this year, I'm also aware that he's been inconsistent. I'm aware of his road and home splits are, polar opposite. I'm aware that more often than not, him in non-save is not a good situation versus him in a save situation. There's a lot that goes into it. But at the end of the day, we're going to see what the offseason holds on that front when it comes to the bullpen. But I will say the bullpen has not been the problem for the Mets this year. That's one thing we can confidently say. The pitching has not been the consistent problem. The Mets just had hitting. They would be able to get over these woes. And I think we can all attest to that and agree. Oh, yeah, Turner 3 made this comment earlier. I was working that day across the river and watched as the second one hit and watched the towers fall. We'll never forget that. Yeah, no, you can never forget something like that. It's just unbelievably scary. And just that's really all I have to say. Allie, great member on the channel, says, do you think the Mets should completely change the roster line for the offseason? Excuse me. Like go crazy with trades? I think the Mets are going to change the roster. To what extent, we'll see, but I don't expect everyone that's currently position player-wise on the team right now to be back. I don't. I think the Mets are going to part ways with at least one or two guys that have been on the team for a couple of years, have controllable contracts. Not necessarily going to say who, but I think you can kind of get a gist of who I'm maybe alluding to. Richie, what's your stance on that when it comes to the actual roster configuration?
Yeah, they're going to have to do a lot of changes. I think they should do trades as well. Some players that are under contract next year should be gone. I'm not going to get into specifics, but you cannot go into next year with the same exact team. Obviously, there's going to be new players coming in and out, but they need a lot of changes because this team needs a new swagger, a new energy, and that's all going to start from the top. I think that's the most important. That's the one thing that I'm focused on the most about this offseason is the people that we're bringing in charge of the operations and the people that are going to be managing the team. Because without those two, doesn't matter who your players are. You can spend all the money in the world, you can do all this, but at the end of the day, you're not going to succeed long term. So that's what I'm looking forward to, is to see who the hell comes in and heads the baseball operations and who's the new manager, hoping that they move on from Rojas.
Yeah, no, 100%, man. A couple more comments here before we get out of here today. Darren, my man, says, I was super emotional for me, even in the UK. I remember that day when it came over on the TV. As I got home from work, my love and thoughts are always with the city and on the anniversary. Well, we appreciate that. Everyone that was impacted, especially Darren, that's, obviously emotional. And yeah, this was something that hit global. This was not just a countrywide thing. Everyone, every single country they could think of had this on the television. It was just, especially when you think in New York, because most people that are outsider to the U.S., you think of a couple things when you think of the U.S. And New York City is one of the first things that pops in your mind. So to see it not just happen, but happen in, the city that never sleeps, the most entertaining city in the country, is just it's kind of, at a loss for words at this point. Brandon, question. I have a question for Richie. So my mom and dad were close to the city when 9/11 happened. What was the experience like for you? And were you close to the city when it happened? Asked Brandon.
Well, I was 2 years old during it, so I don't really have that much memories about that specific days, besides the fact of I live in Long Island, New York. So I'm like an hour away from the city in terms of driving. So my sister was in school. She's 6 years older than me. I was 2, so I wasn't in school yet. So my sister was 8 years old, and she was shut down, and my mom couldn't get in contact with my dad at all. My dad was in Manhattan working, and they shut down everything. My grandmother, my dad's mother, was calling my mom, freaking out. Where's Richard? Where is he? Can you get in contact? And it was really hectic. And then my dad eventually just showed up at the front door. And my mom I just remember like being really confused at that age, not knowing what's happening. And it was a big relief because can you just imagine looking at the news and knowing that your loved one's in the city and not getting in contact with them? Because my dad very well could have been in that building because he's a salesman. He doesn't just sit in his office all day. He walks around the city and goes to every single building and sells equipment stuff to the World Trade Center. My dad's been in that building multiple times before it happened, obviously. So my experience was, I just hear stories more than my own personal experience since I was so young, 2 years old. But it was 3 years old. 3 years old. Big difference. But yeah, man, I just remember my sister being shut down in school because that whole situation. My mom couldn't get in contact with my dad, and it was just a scary time. But we were very fortunate, my family in particular, that we all came out on the other side.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Now getting into another comment here, and this is from David. Hi, Tyler. This team is very strange. Most games are either a one-run win or loss. The team chemistry is excellent, and they are all saying the right thing we have not seen them take off what's wrong. Exactly. Again, and I unfortunately I don't think that's something we're going to find out until the season's conclusion. At the very least, to get over this hump that they've been dealing with all year. Why should I be swayed at this point with 20 games left and think that we're going to get a dramatic change? Would I love for that? Would I hope for that? Absolutely. I'm always going to. But it's not something that I'm betting on, and I don't think anyone is at this point, and for good reason. But yeah, I'm happy to have you here, David. Hope you're doing well. And again, great breakdown by Richie. Yeah, like I said, I personally don't have the experience. The only thing that I honestly remember, and I could be wrong on this, but I'm almost certain that when I was 1, I remember my mom holding me and like walking outside and seeing all the smoke that was in the air, I wasn't close to the city. I was at least an hour and a half to 2 hours away from the city, deeper in Long Island. So that's something that I almost feel like certain that I remember. I think that was one of my honest first memories from that moment. But yeah, just horrible time. A couple more comments here. Jack says, am I done with Rojas? Coming from a person that has been a Rojas supporter a lot this year, yes, I'm done. I'm done with him, and not necessarily so much because of his and it's funny because we don't have high viewership, because I know that people be reacting different to this too. So I'll mention it again in other streams, but I don't think it's as much a Rojas problem to an extent as I think it's one of those things where you need to clean house. You really need to figure out what the problem is at the end of the day. And Rojas has not proven enough to me, especially down the stretch here, that he, at this point in his career as a manager, can get over that hump. So I do think Rojas will be gone. He seems like a great guy. I have nothing personal against him at all. I backed him plenty this year, but changes need to be made at the end of the day, and I think he's going to fall in that category. Not when he's been the sole problem all year, but he also has not helped in bigger games when the Mets have needed help. And I know that the man single-handedly can't win Mets games, but damn, he can definitely influence things to a certain extent. And that's with me being someone that's optimistic about him all year long.
Yeah, if you guys were watching this segment for, since the beginning of the season, I was upset when we found out that Rojas is coming back. I was one of those people when Cohen took over.
Yes, I remember. Well, from one of our first conversations. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, please don't bring Rojas back, Cohen. Like, your first thing cannot be him coming back. And I understand some people are like, oh, well, he had a pandemic year. It's hard to evaluate.
And it was.
My mindset was he wasn't supposed to be the manager in the first place. And I don't think he has the qualities to be an MLB manager. And I was unfortunately proven correctly. And I was rooting to be proven wrong. I was not rooting against Rojas by any means this year. I wanted him to be the guy because that's way better for the team if he's the guy than otherwise. But I never really saw it within Rojas. I never thought he had the in-game baseball knowledge to, be a manager for a Major League Baseball team. And what are we trying to do here, guys? It's win a World Series. And I never really thought he had that in him. So I think he's a goner, especially the fact that his contract is up.
Yeah. And again, this is exactly why the Mets did not extend him with his contract being up at the end of the year. There's a reason for that. And there's a reason why everything has kind of panned out the way it has at this point, because as we've said before, this is an evaluation year for Steve Cohen. It's his first year as owner. Look at what has transpired, man. And look at how much he actually is saying right now. And a lot that he couldn't control. So it's important that we understand what has happened with the Mets this year and understanding that there are factors, and I don't think this is all Rojas' fault whatsoever. You have to look at the Mets not even having a GM that they were trying to originally have. You have to look at the market they were dealing with to bring in a GM. You have to look at Sandy starting things off with decision-making, then going to Jared Porter, then going to the second guy to Jared Porter. That was Zach Scott, and now what has happened with Zach Scott? You look at the Hain coach, firing Chili Davis. Nothing changes now with Hugh Qualbaum. Like, again,
and don't forget to bring up, we hired Beltran. And then
everyone is a replacement, and it's something that we're supporting. We're trying to get the best out of. And I think what has always been appealing to me personally for Rojas, especially when the Mets faced adversity this year and overcame it, that was great to see, but the issue with him is that, one, the lack of experience, but two, I was excited to see how the Mets could gel him. And I knew it was a make or break year for him because this is a guy who, again, hasn't had managerial experience until the Mets. He's had it with everywhere up in the Mets organization up until the actual majors. So he's worked himself up to get here. But the learning process this year was to see how he would gel with Zach Scott in this regime right now and how they would go about it. Now, how much can we blame Zach Scott when it comes to decision-making here with roster configuration, decisions when it comes to analytical-based things? How much can we blame Rojas with his supporting cast around him right now with the hitting coaches and the changes there? That's something that, again, I don't think Rojas is all it's not all of the problem that he's had this year, but I think naturally you just have to kind of get a new regime in, figure things out, and have a better step forward and learn from your mistakes that you made this year. I'm fully confident Mets ownership and upper management, they will be able to do just that and make some significant changes. So again, nothing against Rojas. If he comes back next year, I'm definitely going to have my concerns, but at this point in time, I feel pretty confident in saying he won't be back until proven otherwise. So we're going to answer like one or two more questions I see in the chat right here, and then we're going to get out of here for today's episode because we have a lot going on. Let's see. Someone says don't stream the game Sunday. I'm trying to have a good time. I'm sorry, buddy. If you're going to the game, look out. Maybe sell the tickets while you still have a chance, because we're going to be streaming it. But all jokes aside, we'll see what happens. I'm the jinx, obviously. Everything could go wrong with the Mets has gone wrong with the Mets this year. 100%. So with that being said, that's going to conclude this episode of New York Mets Talk. I want to thank everyone again that chimed in the stream. And I also want to thank everyone so much that has, been here this point on the channel. And I know that we're in the dog days right now, but again, like everything, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, folks, and we're excited to get into the Subway Series. Again, I'll be live on my channel for every single one of these games. I'll be live on Untitled Yankees tonight at 5:30 p.m. Eastern time, and we'll be live with him on the channel co-hosting the stream on Sunday. So stay tuned for that. And again, I want to thank my good friends at BetQL for sponsoring today's episode in New York Mets Talk. And please make sure to check them out on the description down below to get 25% off all their subscription offerings and really anything that you'd be interested in to get a full advantage on your sportsbook. They have an amazing product, so please check them out in the description down below, because it really does help out the channel and what we're trying to do here, not just now, but going forward. So thank you all so much, guys. We'll see you later in the in-game live stream. But Richie, any final remarks before we get out of here?
No, man. I think I've pretty much said everything I wanted to get off my chest with this Mets team. I won't be here in the next Mets Talk on Monday, so hope you guys have a good show, and hopefully it's a positive one.
Yeah, hopefully it's a positive one indeed, my man. So again, thank you all so much for watching, guys. Make sure to subscribe, not just here if you're new, but subscribe to Richie at Mets Media. If you like Jets, then Jets Media. If you like Knicks, then Knicks Media. Potato, he's got them all. So definitely check him out. Appreciate you guys. Love you all. Try to stay positive. I know it's not easy. Let's go and try to have a great Subway Series, an emotional one, but a fun one no less. And we'll talk to you guys very soon. Let's go Mets, baby.